Well, as the fun continues here for Christmas in Branson, Lynn Berry, wow.
It is. You know, it's been 35 years of Ozark Mountain Christmas in Branson this year.
That's a lot of Christmas celebration.
A lot of celebration.
And it really, came to life. And we've talked about this before with Mr. Andy Williams.
That's right.
Mr. Christmas.
That's right.
I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity to have Andy on a couple of occasions on this show and talk to him and just the memories. I grew up watching the Andy Williams Christmas show, in the late 1960s. I mean, that was what you wanted to watch, right?
That was the Christmas set-off when Andy put on that special Christmas sweater.
Oh, my goodness. And it kind of transformed Christmas here in Branson.
He did.
But it just keeps getting better and better. More creative things are happening. And our good friends at the Titanic have something special going on, too. First Maid Jamie is here. Jamie, it's always good to have you here on the Bot Radio Network. Thanks for joining us on this special Christmas edition from Branson.
Thank you for having me. I always feel so welcome when you invite me in, and I love coming here. So, Christmas in Branson, it was one of my favorite times, and especially at the Titanic. Even if I didn't work there, I would still say that.
You would still go?
I believe it, really.
And
yes.
the tragic story of Titanic, the lives that were lost.
Right.
But there's still something, there's a message here, right?
Right.
Even at Christmas time.
We do. We take, we feel like we're the ambassadors of their legacies, and their legacies are their memories, and we get to do that every day. So this is over 111 years now, and those people will never be forgotten because we're there, and the guests that want to come and learn about them, they're there. And here we are, well past 15 years of being in Branson now, and we get repeat visitors that come back, and there's always something different to see and learn about at the Titanic Museum. Imagine this will be my 17th year working at the ship.
Wow.
And people would think, don't you get tired of telling those same stories? No, I don't. There's always something different that we've learned about them. I always say Titanic is the history lesson that never ends.
Yeah.
There's always something to learn more about.
Well, we've been doing these shows, Lynn, I think for about 16 years now,
yes.
From Bot Radio Memphis
Jamie's been here.
And Jamie, pretty soon since you've been on the team, you've been part of this. We were here in the spring, remember, Lynn?
That's right.
And we were celebrating a special Children of the Titanic.
Beautiful.
And that theme is continuing on even through Christmas, I believe.
Yeah, it's the entire year. Every year we do a tribute to a different type of passenger. For example, one year it was the amazing women on Titanic. We even did a tribute to the dogs one year, the dogs that were on.
That was so much fun.
10 dogs were on. 3 survived. 2 Pomeranians and 1 Pekingese made it off Titanic. I know. Now, you couldn't just roll on Titanic with your dog. No. You had to buy a ticket for your dog.
Oh, really?
Yes. Everybody has to have a ticket. Really, only the first class passengers were allowed to bring their dogs. But, they're probably the only ones that could afford the dog ticket, to be honest.
For sure.
In today's money, it would be the equivalent to about $200 to bring your dog on board, okay?
That was a lot of money then.
Yeah. So we actually have a actual artifact, a real dog ticket from the White Star Line hanging up in the area where we do the tribute to the dogs. You can take a look and see what the dog ticket looked like. You never know what you'll find.
You never know. Well, was there a special menu on the Titanic for the dogs?
Well, here's what. That's a good thing that we don't. You see, the way we are today about our animals, I have 2 weenie dogs, and they are very, very spoiled, okay? Prince and Cashmere, they're very fancy weenie dogs. But, today we portion out their food, and we've got their shots, and we've got everything. I don't think in 1912 it was quite that way.
Yeah.
But who do you think, out of all the crew members on Titanic, who was in charge of the dogs? Who do you think? Take a wild guess.
I have no idea.
The butcher.
For goodness sake, you would be friendly with the dogs.
Well, they didn't have feed him this food brand and feed this. It wasn't like that, I'm certain, in 1912. But our best, we've thought about it a lot, and the best that we can come up with is after the butcher is done with all his cutting of meat, he probably had a lot of spare time on his hands. And they said, hey, you're the one, take care of the dogs. And he probably had a lot of extra scraps.
I was going to say.
And back then, you could feed the dogs the scraps of meat. Today, people faint.
Yeah.
Don't do that. My dog takes this particular kind.
Those nice bones, steak bones too. My goodness.
All of that.
Yeah.
So that's what we've, in our mind, concocted of why we think the butcher.
I suspect.
What do you know about a 1912 Christmas? The season that Titanic was, around. What was Christmas like in that era?
Well, it would have been the Edwardian period. Okay, so very things with a lot of angels and cherubs would have been big for decorating. And you note that when you come through the Titanic Museum, you see the big cherub there at the bottom of the grand staircase. A lot of gold tinted looking things like this, very elaborate looking type ornaments, and also handmade things. Things that were handmade were, not everybody had money to buy gifts, so you'd find a lot of fruit and nuts on the table, okay? Those were things that people guests drop by unexpectedly. You have something that wouldn't be very expensive. You could still offer something like that. And sometimes even the children would get the fruit. I remember in my stockings, I always got some fruit. And that was from way back. The people would put the fruit in the stockings. Of course, I dug through for the other stuff too. But I remember specifically having that. But when you come to the Titanic Museum, we still keep that Edwardian theme going. And sometimes people are confused, especially at Christmas time at the Titanic, because they see all of the decorations. And if they don't know a lot about Titanic, they will ask, did Titanic go down at Christmas time? Oh. Is that why? Or did they decorate like this? And those are all valid questions, okay? So we get to be the one to enlighten people. No, she didn't go down in December. She went down in April. It was her maiden voyage. April 15th, 1912 is when she sank. But they weren't planning on sinking. They probably had lots of Decembers planned, and certainly they would have decorated for Christmas. Yeah. They didn't get to decorate, so we do it for them.
Wow,
yes,
wow.
Indeed.
Hey, let me ask you, I don't think I've ever asked you this before, and we don't have to go too deep into this, but there's a lot of different conspiracy theories that float around Titanic, and people talk, Miss Lynn, have you heard some of those?
They think that, there were other means that took it down.
Yeah, other than the iceberg.
Yes, well, at the Titanic Museum, we do not entertain conspiracy theories at all. Those are very quickly debunked right out of the chute, and the main way to do that is to look at the propellers, okay? Titanic's propellers, when you walk into our lobby in Branson, you look above your head, and you're going to see an actual size of the smallest propeller of Titanic. So the next time you're there, look up and just imagine that that's the smallest.
And that's the actual one or one
the
like
actual
it?
size.
That's the actual size.
Yeah,
okay.
The real one weighed 22 tons.
Oh, my.
And they had two more that were larger than that. They were 7 feet wider than the one we have, and they were 38 tons apiece. So when Titanic went down, that ship dug itself into the clay bottom of the ocean, and that propeller is halfway dug in. You can still see a little bit of it sticking up. So the idea of raising the Titanic will not happen because there isn't even equipment invented yet that could do the task of that. That's been in the bottom of the ocean for over 100 years now. And even if you tried to raise it up, you'd have to get it up out of all that clay bottom. And then once it hits the oxygen up out of the water, it's just going to disintegrate, basically. And it's rusting away, being eaten away by microorganisms as we speak. So not too very long, it will be just nothing there. But what will be there? The propellers.
The propellers.
You know why? They are made of 100% manganese bronze, and they will never rust or rot away. So the conspiracy theory, here's how you can tell. Okay, when they're building Titanic, they do not name them or call them the names of the ship while they're building them. It was just not done. You wouldn't say, like your pal who's working at the shipyard, what are you working on today? I'm working on Titanic. That would never be said. They were called by it's kind of like their serial number.
Right.
Okay, Titanic was number 401. Her sister before that was 400. And the next one being built, the Britannic, would be 402. So on the propeller, engraved in it, well, we call today a hashtag, but it's really the number symbol, number 401 is engraved on these big, humongous 22, 38-ton manganese bronze propellers. And those are still there. And if you dove down to the Titanic tonight, Byron, if you did it tonight.
Let's go, Lynn.
Okay. You go down there,
John.
thrust the lights on, you will see it engraved. 401 is still there.
Oh, my.
Okay. So the conspiracy theory is debunked right off the bat with that, because this would mean if there were switching Titanic and the Olympic in the middle of Belfast, Ireland. Okay, number one, it takes over 14,000 Irishmen to build her over 3 years. So we're talking a lot. We're talking big. A 14-story tall ship that's as long as 4 city blocks. This is how big we're talking, okay? We would have to get both of them in there, Olympic and Titanic at the same time with nobody seeing it.
That's not going to happen.
And do a switcheroo on some things here and shimmy the other one out to the ocean and nobody be the wiser. That did not happen.
Yeah.
So the 401 is where we debunk that right out. There are a lot of other
Well,
reasons
sure.
too, but just like anything, everybody's got about, well, what if? I'll tell you,
Yeah.
But if you come to the Titanic Museum at either of our locations, you can be confident that our crew will guide you through through all of the real facts
Yeah,
and the history.
And of course, as we mentioned, the owner is Mary and John Kellogg.
Yes,
And of course, John has actually been to the Titanic.
That's correct.
Yes,
With
Mr. John Jocelyn was the second person in the world ever to go down to the Titanic. He and his team completed 32 dives. They spent 44 days out at sea.
So you guys take this serious. I mean, to know,
Absolutely.
to get the history accurate, to be able to report it, to bring it back, to give those who come to Branson an experience.
Right. Some people just think it's some guy that opened a Titanic museum in Branson, and they have no idea that it goes really so much deeper and personal than that. For
Yeah.
him, it was when he went down to the Titanic and he got to see it with his own eyes, it touched him personally. And he said he vowed to himself, one day I would have a place where I could pay tribute to whoever walked in those shoes that he saw at the bottom of the ocean, whoever carried that little doll when he saw just the face of a doll, all those egg plates stacked perfectly, unbroken, hundreds of them. He said somebody stacked them one by one, not this day, but one day they had. And he said, I'll have a place where I can pay tribute to those people. And this is like almost a 30-year dream of his come true now.
Well, as we talk, Miss Lynn, too, about the different themes that are celebrated throughout the year, this year being the children of the
Yes.
Titanic. I remember the little, matter of fact, connection with Memphis,
shoes.
the little milk chocolate
Yes.
shoes to represent the shoes of the children from the Titanic. And by the way, for our Memphis listeners, those little chocolates were made at Dinstall's Candies,
Yes.
which Dinstall's is a historic candy maker in Memphis.
They predate the Titanic. Did you know that?
Yeah,
I
the
think-
candy shop does. They do, yes.
Like 1908, I believe, is when they started being the chocolatiers, and they are our official chocolatier of the Titanic.
Yeah.
All of the little candies or all the chocolates that you see in our shop, you'll see the Dinstall's label there.
Well, there is something very magical about visiting the Titanic, especially at Christmas time. 'Cause if you visit it once, there's more to see because you're constantly changing. The experience is always new and exciting and refreshing. And this year, with the children theme, is no exception. Tell us about Christmas children celebration from the Titanic Museum and what you've got.
Yes, well, we always decorate for Christmas, and not just put a tree up. Oh, no. We're talking the entire museum, and keep in mind, it takes on average about 2 hours to complete a tour. It's self-guided. We're talking from the entrance to the exit, 2 floors of the museum from the beginning to the end. It takes our crew about a week. All hands on deck to decorate that ship and get it so beautiful. And we've kind of had the theme going over the past years of the gold and the burgundies, and it's just an explosion of beautiful Edwardian style, and all of those color schemes have kind of stayed the same over the years. We're adding new things in every year. But this year, all that's gone.
It is.
You will not see burgundy and maroon, burgundy and gold in the color scheme of our Christmas this year. Mary came to us and said, look, we're changing everything. We said, well, surprise if you met Mary Kellogg, because that's what she does.
Yes, of course.
She said red. She just looked at us and said red. And we went,
Red.
we're on board, literally. What? What? She said, red everywhere. And we said, okay.
Yes.
And boy, did she mean it. Our design team and design crew really knocked it out of the park this year. It is, I work there and I walk in and I'm just,
I can't wait. I can't
it is so
wait.
beautiful. You're going to see these beautiful buffalo plaid check everywhere, intertwined in all of it. And up against the red, and then at the grand staircase, we have not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 humongous Christmas trees.
Oh,
2
my.
of them are over 15 feet tall, okay? And then the other 2 down at the bottom of the stairs, and they're covered in all these beautiful red decorations.
Now, Lynn, are those trees included in the how many trees you'll see in Branson?
We have over 2,000.
Are those trees included in those?
Yes, they are.
Oh, just making sure.
And we just got our brand new red tree at the top outside of the museum as you pass by. It just went up yesterday, I think. And it's brand new. We haven't had a red tree, but Mary Kellogg said red, and that tree had to be red too. Okay?
And
So,
it's
but on our trees, and all throughout the museum, since it is the year of the children, there were 135 children on board, and we're honoring all of them. You're going to start to see the most beautiful, the softest, the most adorable red teddy bears.
Oh, red teddy bears.
Everywhere, exploding out of everywhere, and you want to squeeze them and squish them, and you can. Guess what? You can. And I brought a couple with me.
Did you bring some red teddy bears?
Brought them with me.
And you're going to share them with our
I
Bot
am.
Radio Network listeners here. Here they come.
They're real red and rare.
I'm going to bring the baby out first.
red and
the
rare.
baby.
No, that's the baby.
Now you notice he's got the buffalo plaid
So
check that I talked about. And on their ears, they're going to have the Titanic tag, see?
Yes.
And it's each one of them, and it's got a little red bow there.
Oh.
It's going to have the name of a real child that was on
Oh.
Titanic and a little bit about them. For example, it says the Titanic Museum Attraction honors the 135 children aboard RMS Titanic. Marshall Drew, second class passenger, 8 years old.
8
Oh.
So you'll get
Can
a
I
little.
touch him?
You sure can. Now I've
Oh,
got.
this is soft.
Would have
Oh,
loved
you think
that.
This
he's
is
soft.
really
That-
soft.
Wait till I bring the big one out.
Is it bigger than this one?
Oh yes, sir.
So precious.
Oh, my goodness.
Isn't he something? Now then, you want to talk about a soft bear? Take him.
Oh, let's see now.
Pick him up.
Boy, Lynn,
Goodness.
this is so cuddly soft.
I know. That's what it is.
Adorable.
The adults come around the corner and they see those and they think, oh, well, let me get one for my kid or maybe a grandkid. And then they pick one up and they go, oh, boy, let me see about maybe I need another one. And you'll notice on his ear, he's got a different kid there that was on Titanic.
Yeah, you want to read that one?
Yeah. So this one is William Carter, 11 years old, first class passenger. So you got a first class passenger and a second class passenger. So you'll never know. And they're all everywhere. Some of them are in the trees. And then when you get to the gift shop, which Titanic had a gift shop, the real ship did.
It really did.
It was located in the barber shop. That's where you'd go to find souvenirs for your trip, just like you would today on a cruise. Yeah. But yeah, when you get to the gift shop, we have this little miniature lifeboat. And all of these bears are just all with their little bear friends. And I saw yesterday some the guests were just realizing about the little name tags. Mm-hmm. And there was one who was Bertram Dean. He was about almost 2 years old. And then the other kid found it had a sister, Melvina Dean. And so we have to, he can't go home without his sister. So then Mom had to get
Oh, that's wonderful.
So we love that, you know.
My.
And Melvina was the last surviving
You're right. See, you're a Titaniac.
person.
You remembered.
Absolutely
Lynn knows it.
am.
Yeah.
I love that history.
Tell me that story. She was the last.
She was the last survivor of the entire ship.
That's right.
That passed away only a few years ago.
Well, there are no more people alive who were on Titanic
That's
today. Melvina was the last one. She lived to be 97 years old. She passed away in 2009.
Okay.
and Mary and John had her valise.
Yes.
As a child, she was 2,
Well, here's what she
little bitty.
when she was 9 weeks old when she was on Titanic. Her brother was about 2, though. But they're coming to Wichita, Kansas. That's where they were coming from, England. The daddy was going to open a tobacco shop. So they've loaded everything up, and the whole family, mom, dad, and the 2 little kids. Imagine you've got a little almost 2-year-old running around, and then a 9-week-old baby. And you're coming to start a brand new life. Well, the daddy didn't survive, but the mom and the 2 kids did. Now, imagine that scene, would you? And about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, their survivors are being brought into New York City. It's dark, it's night. A rainstorm has started, a thunderstorm. So it's drizzling rain now, and you've lost everything. Keep aside the fact that your heart is broken because your husband didn't make it. Now you've got these 2 kids. The whole future you'd planned is gone. Everything you owned and packed up is at the bottom of the ocean. And you are holding that little baby in the crook of your arm. The little 2-year-old is toddling around you trying to grab a hold of him. Your heart is heavy and broken, and the rain is falling down on you. And you look around, and all these people are swarmed at the docks, the looky-loos, wanting reporters and wanting everything to know, eyewitness accounts, all of that. And you probably can't see straight through your tears. You can't. Yeah. And there were people bringing out donations to help with people. And there was a person who brought a little wicker suitcase. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And in it was a little bit of food and a few changes of clothes and a little bit of baby clothes. And they handed that to her, and that's all she had in the entire world to start. So imagine her grasping that little suitcase, have the baby in your arm, and trying to wrangle that 2-year-old, and your heart is so heavy, you probably couldn't even take a step, and your eyes are flooded with tears, and it's raining down in your head. That's what it was like, you know? Yeah. And I think about that, and I think about those little kids running around, and you know what? We can all, it's over 100 years ago, but you can imagine, you can feel what she felt, you know. And at our museum, we get to tell stories like that. And it's not just a movie. It was somebody's mama, it was somebody's daddy, it was somebody's husband, somebody's little baby.
Yes.
And when we get to tell those stories, the real ones like that.
Yeah.
So she takes the suitcase, she takes the little kids, and she goes back to England. Of course, there's nothing here for her. And she ends up having a long, happy life. And Milvina ends up living to 97 years
Wow.
old. Now, the kids didn't realize they're on Titanic till they're about 10 years old. That's when she tells them. Now, by now, the mother had remarried a nice man and became their stepfather, and they grew up happy. And they did have a long, happy life. So Milvina was, at the end of her life, was going to need to go in a nursing home. And she couldn't afford her nursing bills. So she was going to need to sell that little wicker suitcase, part of the Titanic history of hers. And Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Winslet, and Jim Cameron heard about this, you know, and they stepped in and they paid for her nursing the entire rest of her life.
Wow.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
What a story. I
Isn't that beautiful?
did not know that. Christmas right now, Lynn, right here in Branson, the Titanic. So how do we get tickets? When do we know? When can you see the Titanic?
Right,
When is
yeah.
it available?
Well, reservations are required, and it's TitanicAttraction.com. Or you can call 1-800-380-7670, and our crew will get you ready. So, yeah, it's a self-guided tour. It takes, on average, about an hour and a half to 2 hours, but you can take as little or as long as you'd like to. And we do ask that you do go ahead and get your reservations, because we do sell out many days, and we don't want you to come to town and not be able to come. So as soon as you know your travel plans, go ahead and reserve those tickets.
First Maid Jamie from the Titanic, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much for being here with Byron
Sure,
Radio
my
today.
pleasure.